Hello, I'm Lacy. I grew up in Lincolnshire, in these parts, and the Lincolnshire landscape's always been very influential on my thinking and feeling. I became a GP and worked locally, and around about 20 years or so ago, I began to write poetry, which I don't think I'd ever done since school, partly as a response to landscape and partly out of the experience of being a doctor. And I've continued to do so, and also found that when I came to preach in church, that sometimes poems were very appropriate then, just to give a different angle on the message that I'd been given in ordinary prose. The first poem is actually based on that idea. You need to imagine that it's being spoken by an elderly man in a village in Israel 3,000 years ago, someone who saw the beginning of the story of the Song of Songs. And it's called Prelude to the Song. I have known them since they were children. She, vivacious, raven-haired, open to wonder, the smile of all who knew her. Close to her mother, whom I once worshipped from afar. He, the sturdy toddler, quiet, but eyes taking in the dappled light of passing seasons. And I saw them through smiles and tears and grazed knees, learning the hard realities of village life, taking on the duties and the care of flocks and vines, unaware of what would be, yet sudden silences, showing that within them was a longing for beyond. And then, one day at dusk, I saw them meet by chance, and yet it was ordained that sun-dark skin should blush as she looked into his eyes, and that he should sway not as a falling tree, but as a cedar pruned so that a dove might nest in its once closed heart. The rest you may read. A better pen than mine has told in words like liquid jewels the joy, the longing, the becoming one. And many since have seen that village love that joined two lives leads to a greater road that followed reaches a more wondrous home. But I was there from this love's childhood start, and can rejoice for lives that long through consummation to reach a greater joy than any known this far. One of the great formative writers, Christian writers, of people of my generation was C.S. Lewis. I guess everybody knows the Narnia stories, and lots of people are familiar with the Christian works he wrote, like Miracles and The Problem of Pain. But we tend to forget that in everyday life, he was actually a professor of medieval and Renaissance literature. And one of his books was called The Broken Image, about the medieval worldview. I read that with its explanation, which I'd never really understood, of what the music of the spheres was meant to be. And then one summer night in Cornwall, what I'd been reading and the view in front of me came together. This is Summer Night, Cornwall. Soft summer night. I stand above the bay, silvered horizon, the moon's distorted track reflecting boundary between this sphere and the next. Folds of different darkness shadowed at my feet, drowsed roar of surf on broken cliffs beneath. Across water, village lights speak friends, homes, warm bodies merged in love. It's true that I could walk the darkened lanes, risk unseen briars, stumbling in the now black grass, but it would take time. Lights go out, and sleep cuts off that good world from my reach. I turn to look above. The stars are village lights, a haven cut off by vasts of time and space. Are they too partners in a dance of life, complex joy of satisfied desire, singing music beyond range of human ear? Suppose my reference point was not myself, sea, village stars, defined by where I stand. So I no longer gazed across a void, missing songs in which I cannot join, but were in truth already in the dance. Then I would know this sphere as my true living space, understand that what lies out there is real, that I am no lost stranger here, outside the wall, cut off by all past choices from dancing rhythm, the beauty of those voices. Could I remain here, self-denied my rightful place, self-condemned to darkness, refusing grace, passage across the boundaries of the spheres to starlight music that denies the void, to village firelight love to be enjoyed? The next one arises out of my experience as a GP in the days when a death had to be confirmed by a doctor, and that when we did the out-of-hours cooperative, I would sometimes have to go and see someone who died whom I'd never met before. It's called Death Confirmed. We never met, so never talked of gardens to break the ice of undiscovered fear. You never told me of your sons and dreams. I did not write the letter that consigned you to the X-ray and the surgeon's knife. We never met. But I did one thing for you. Knocking on the dark night's locked door, the damp air spitting on the warm stone steps, the nurse's greeting, the "come this way," brief words spoken to those dreamed of sons. We never met. Torch shine into empty eyes, skin cool, no pulse, no breath, no sound, no life. The end confirmed. The words one always says. Back outside, two comets draw apart, whose orbits touched and then went on their ways. The last few months, as we all know, have been terrible. None of us have ever known anything like this time of COVID. And yet out of all the disaster and the suffering, poetry has flourished. And last Christmas Eve, bringing back memories of Christmas Eves when I was working, driving back at about 3 p.m. from the surgery, a very special time because it was so quiet and nearly always dull and grey, and just hearing the beginning of the Festival of Nine Lessons and Carols, COVID and the past came together. King's College carols heard many times before. Work done, damp dusk, drive home on empty roads. Life drawing in, back to Bethlehem. Time out of time. I tried to paint it once. Mary and Joseph backpacking east along the A158. Signpost right to refuge, house of bread. Time before time. Mood part captured. Flat fields, bare trees, winter sky, tarmac stretched to distant dim-seen walls, anorak's bright splash, defiant hope, time that was time. This is not the first Christmas overtaken by events beyond control. 1918, empty chairs, post-war, post-pandemic. Time repeats time. Still they sing, half willing, our masked hearts echo through, though faintly, after months of pain and grief. Reason says absurd. Faith whispers hope, time after time.